To kick things off, I'd like to introduce Fred Werner. He's talking about AI for good, and he's head of strategic engagement at the United Nations ITU.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here. Good morning. Okay, so I'd just like to explain to you a little bit about what we're doing AI for Good at the United Nations. And for those of you who don't know ITU, we're the United Nations specialized agency on digital technologies. And we basically do three things. We allocate and harmonize radio spectrum and satellite orbits for telecommunications. We develop international standards that underpin modern telecommunication networks. And we assist developing countries in bringing up their ICT infrastructure to help them, participate in the digital economy. And we're unique in the UN family in that we have 194 private members, 194 member states, 1,000 private industry members, and 150 university institutions as part of the ITU membership, all contributing to our standards development. We're also the organizers of AI for Good since 2017. Now, before I begin, I'd like to share something that came across my desk a few days ago that I think you might find interesting. So I want you to have a look at this image here, and on the other side, you have a video. So just have a look and try and think, what's going on here. Okay, here's another one. Have a look at the image, and then the video on the right-hand side. And one more time. I think you get the picture. So what's going on here? Is this the trailer to the next Mission Impossible movie? Is it some new app off the dark web? No, it's actually an art project called The Follower. And what this artist did is he went to record 10 days worth of camera feeds, which you have open feeds on most town squares around the world. There's probably one in Davos we don't know about. And then he went to Instagram and basically scraped all the publicly available profiles that are geotagged for the same location as the town square feed. And then using basically open source machine learning tools and computer vision was able to create a match. So now you can see what that football player was doing before he took his glorious selfie. Now, is this good? Is this bad? Well, it depends. In this case, it's an art project, a bit of social commentary, if you will. I think it's rather clever. I wish I thought of it myself. But it's not hard to imagine how this could be used and abused in the wrong setting. And that's exactly why we created AI for Good. So AI for Good was created in 2017, and it was built on the premise that we now only have 5 years left to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And AI holds great promise to advance many of those goals and targets. So anything from climate change to affordable energy to healthcare to education for all, spotting gender inequity, and more physical manifestations of AI in the world like robotics, brain-computer interface, autonomous driving. I think the use cases are definitely there. But how do you know a high-potential AI application works equally well on men or women, on persons with different skin colors, on children or the elderly, persons with disabilities, or in low-resource settings where things like electricity, 5G, access to data, things we take for granted are real issues. So these are not natural reflexes to the fast-moving tech and startup industry. I think the track record so far has been, let's build it and we'll fix it later. But these are things that we think very deeply about at the AI for Good community. And another thing I'd like to highlight is basically 1/3 of the world still remains unconnected. And if you're not connected, you can't participate in the AI revolution. And for me, that's the equivalent of a V8 engine that's only firing on 4 cylinders instead of 8. And what I mean by that, it's not so much an issue of coverage. I mean, you have large parts of the world where you have telecommunications coverage and from satellite, from different technologies. But there's no incentives to move the people online. There's no local content. There's no content in their languages. There's no access to government services. For example, if you're illiterate, you can't participate. So I think by using AI, you can remove that friction and using speech to text, text to voice, helping people with disabilities, and really enable people to participate, not only connectivity for the sake of connectivity, but to participate in the global problem-solving potential, storytelling, creativity, culture. And for me, it's a real pity that almost half the world is still not participating in this. So what is AI for good? Well, simply put, AI for good is to identify practical applications of trustworthy AI to advance the Sustainable Development Goals. And how do we do this? Well, first of all, we can't do this alone. So we have 47 UN sister agencies as partners of AI for Good. So that's virtually the entire UN system that's participating in AI for Good, helping to build projects, contributing to our standards, to our webinars. They're there to learn, to contribute. And it's really, I think, the United Nations platform for AI. It's open, it's inclusive, it's global, and great efforts have been made to bring as many people to the table as possible. And what I mean by this is we have the UN there. We have, of course, the members of the UN, 194 member states. We have private sector industry there, academia, NGOs, civil society, international media, and also bringing together the creatives, youth, athletes. I mean, really anyone who has an interest or a voice in charting a beneficial future for AI, for humankind, is welcome at AI for Good. So before I continue to the next part, I just want to show you a little video of last year's summit so you can help to visualize a bit, you know, who we are, what we do, and also the kind of topics that are covered at AI for Good. If we could have some audio,
the industry leaders to try and harness AI to further the UN's development goals in areas like health, climate and sustainability.
How do we govern technologies if we don't yet know their full potential?
The main purpose of this summit is to explore how the AI solutions can help sustainable development.
AI will come to influence almost every aspect of our societies and economies.
AI 治理框架
AI for good.
I would say the most pressing topic at the summit is going to be how do you handle deepfakes, misinformation.
成为 AI for good.
Cumbre Mundial All for Good.
The good news is that the future of undetectable deepfakes can be avoided through the development and implementation of robust detection technologies and international standards.
Seen as the fact that we can really affect amazing change, but we have to do this together, and we have to do it in collaboration with partners, with organizations, with institutions, and that's what's making me so excited about what AI for Good is all about.
One-third of humanity remains completely offline, excluded from the AI revolution.
Artificial intelligence is changing our world and our lives, and it can turbocharge sustainable development.
We are the AI generation, and this is our moment, and it's our responsibility to write the next chapter in the great story of humanity and technology.
So the reason I wanted to show you this is because we've been doing AI for Good since 2017. And I was just speaking to a colleague here in the coffee break, and I think we've really passed that point of AI being in PowerPoint slides mainly, and really starting to see AI for Good affecting people's lives in a positive way. You may have seen a few shots there where we had a patient with locked-in syndrome. So this was a patient in Portugal. I think he was about 24 years old. He can't move, he can't speak, I think he can only blink. And using brain-computer interface combined with a large language model, basically generative AI, to help him communicate, he was able to speak from Portugal with our audience in Geneva. And the only sign that you could see that was happening, apart from his voice, actually, AI was using recordings of his voice before he got sick to actually turn the generative text into his voice, so he could actually hear his own voice communicating with the audience. And then you actually saw a tear coming out of his eye, and that was the only sign that there was some kind of interaction happening. But I could tell you there was 2,000 tears in the main stage in Geneva. And, you know, this was really an example of AI for Good in action. Likewise, we had a paralyzed champion wheelchair tennis player who, for the first time, stood upright and walked on our stage. I think at the end you saw the person in the exoskeleton. And again, she's just described the idea of being able to stand up and feel the blood rush down to her feet, and this whole new way of being. And when you see these things affecting people's lives, I think it's a lot more convincing than 4 years ago when you saw the fancy slides of what can be. And we just see countless use cases of this. So that's really inspiring. So we're known as a summit, but one of our phrases is that we're more than a summit and we're action-oriented. So the summit's once a year in Geneva, but we have a platform called the Neural Network, which has almost 40,000 members. And we have AI for Good webinars, talks, collaboration efforts happening from 183 countries on this platform almost every working day. So that's probably 150 AI for Good events online on top of the summit. And through that, we do, of course, our bread and butter is standards development. So we have 220 AI standards that have been developed in the past few years, standards that are used to optimize telecommunication networks, to improve cybersecurity, to improve multimedia, coding, video coding, presentations, environmental efficiency of data centers, and what have you. And basically, these focus groups, they're what I call pre-standardization efforts. So bringing together our UN partners with industry to create standards that will help areas like AI and health, natural disaster management, agriculture, autonomous driving, and really with the SDGs and inclusivity in mind. One thing I'd like to highlight is the issue of AI governance. So we're always exploring both sides of the coin, and we brought together about 80 ministers in Geneva last year, with the diplomatic community, and then all the people involved in the different governance processes from the UK, the US, from China, Japan, Korea, and really trying to move from principles to implementation. And a good example of this was the launch of the AI Skills Coalition, which we announced yesterday with Microsoft and AWS and different partners. Because one thing that we all agreed on is the huge skills gap that needs to be addressed. So through these partners, we're going to offer learning resources, anything from AI 101 to AI for diplomats, AI for regulators, AI for engineers, in a really decentralized way. And if there's anyone in the audience who has learning resources to offer on AI, then we'd invite you to get in touch and be part of this coalition. So that was launched yesterday, and then the prototype will go out in March for Mobile World Congress, and then we'll have a big partners meeting at the summit in July. We run a number of machine learning challenges, and here we basically try and I'm sorry, I'm in front of the stage. These machine learning challenges, we basically source problem statements to problems that don't yet have solutions. And then we've basically, an example would be using AI to detect landslides or deforestation or cattle theft, or more on a more technical way, how do you reduce the energy consumption of base stations, for example, with 5G. And we've run over 100 challenges to date, inviting tens of thousands of students from around the world, from Africa, from India, and they're coming up with amazing solutions using machine learning. Likewise, we engage the AI startup community. I know there are many startups here today, and basically any startup using AI in a unique way to advance one or more of the SDGs would be invited to participate in the Innovation Factory, which is a year-long startup pitching competition. We engage youth on robotics, and this will be highly featured at the summit in July. And I think my time's up, and you have some questions, but I would invite you all to come to the summit in July. 8th to the 11th of July. It's open, it's free, you're all invited.